Here we are.
Here we are.
Memorial Day weekend.
Yahooey.
Don't get your bikini out just yet.
Oh my gosh, today I'm freezing.
It's going to be cold like all weekend.
I didn't leave my house today, and when I did, I put this on because it looked really nice out, and then I got outside, and I was like, oh, too cold.
It keeps calling for like really cold weather, I feel like, and then it does warm up in the middle of the day. Like
Yeah.
I keep expecting like a high of 60, and then it ends up being like 70s.
Brent said we were going to have this stretch where it was going to be in the low to mid 60s. We're going to be our highs for like the next week.
Unseasonably cool weather.
Yeah.
I think it's also because whenever I go to like change my closet out, and when I finally decide to put that tote up on the highest shelf possible, that's when the weather hits.
Yeah.
And now all my warm clothes are
Yeah.
out of reach.
So we talked about this a little bit earlier that if now would be the time, because Sheridan is opening this weekend, many pools I'm sure are opening this weekend. If you want to like get into the whole cold plunge thing, this might be the weekend to try it.
That ain't for me.
Just dive in, sitting there for like 5 minutes, and then jump out, I guess.
Mini pools. We don't have many pools.
Many pools.
Many.
Yeah, we do.
We have-
You have people are members of pools. People
Yeah.
are members of the country club.
no
People
public
have
pools.
private pools. You got Indian Mounds.
Oh yeah.
So
Are they opening?
Is that
this
opening?
weekend?
Jackson Lincoln, although I bet Jackson Lincoln's not opening yet. I would assume. The Park District usually opens it on Memorial Day weekend, but maybe because of the weather they might not. So I don't know. But Sheridan will be open.
We generally wait for a while to fill pools around here, right? I noticed like when we were driving by Hannibal, and I think there was one in like Rushville, they already had their pool filled and like warming.
Normally Memorial Day weekend is when they're open.
They're open, yeah. But as far as filling them, because I feel like you need to fill them up so they can get warm. Although it wouldn't do any good now, but
Yeah, you got to fill them up before you get in them.
yeah.
So
You mentioned the Hannibal pool. I know a lot of Quincyans travel to that Hannibal pool. It's
Yeah.
really nice facility.
Have you been?
I have not yet.
I haven't been, but my kids have been. They love it.
yeah, it is nice.
It's very nice.
And so that's so whatever else is on your agenda this weekend. Of course, garage sailing, free plug for my garage sale.
Yeah, the Woe, the ladies of the
garage.
Woe. I was like, this is awesome. I'm gonna have to stop by. Although I don't want any more crap. We were
We're
just
getting
talking
rid of
about
crap.
like purging everything.
Yeah, no, that's what we're doing.
My aunt came over with like a load of stuff that she got from a raffle, and the girls, of course, were picking through it. All I can see is stuff just all over my house now.
Yeah.
So, but although it's great stuff, so thank you, Aunt Amy.
We're loading up laundry totes and going to walk in because we're going to have it at O'Brien's house on Woodside Drive, and we're just going to load up the totes and take them down. And I told Scott, since he's home for summer, just start putting dollar stickers on everything. I
Yeah.
don't care what it is.
Yeah.
And then say, oh, do you give you a quarter? Great, dude.
Yeah,
Gone.
sure. Yeah.
Whatever. Just take it.
I think that's a Midwest thing too, because do garage sales happen, in the East area in New York where they're living on top of each other? Probably not.
Yeah,
So
I don't
this is-
know.
and I also saw something just recently. It was like one of those reels or something. Somebody was being really funny about. I love when they kind of poke fun at Midwestern, and
Yeah.
open. Yep. But we are all pseudo hoarders.
Oh yeah.
Most every Midwesterner is a pseudo hoarder
Yeah.
compared to everyone else's lifestyle. Like I was saying, living on top of each other and stuff. I was listening also to I don't know, it was like that Hits One radio, and so I think they're based out of LA, and they live on top of each other, and they're really well established people, making lots of money, and they're talking about the bathroom from their neighbors leaking down on them, and I'm just like, I could never imagine.
No. I also.
I lived in my fair share of apartments.
Yeah.
But like that's just not something like once you're established and in adult life that as a Midwesterner, that's what we aspire to have. I think we all want, the piece of, at least Midwesterners want that Americana dream.
Yeah.
Your yard, your house.
Yeah. White picket fence.
Yep, that's why we have our housing shortage problem is because
Right.
we all have these dreams.
So, are you a garage sailor? Do you go garage sailing?
I used to be quite a bit, but then my husband built me a house that he purposely made it so
You can't.
I
There's no
can't- I don't-
space for
there's no
garage sale
space for
stuff.
anything. I'm kidding, but there was definitely some planning behind that.
That's funny. I used to love to go to garage sales. I also love to have them to get rid of my crap, but I hate preparing for them. And the last garage sale I had turned out to be a nightmare. I may have told this story before, but you know how you're like loading everything into, a lady bought one of my purses, so I was just like shoving all of her crap in there, and my cell phone ended up in this bag.
I remember this.
So I had to track it with my
remember this,
my
yeah.
watch, and it was in Carthage. So I was calling my phone to try to get her to answer, and of course she didn't. Well, I tracked it to her house. So here comes little Ash, just hey, this is a really weird interaction here, I'm sure, but I think you have my cell phone from a garage sale you visited earlier today. She was like, oh my gosh, honey, I'm so sorry. So yeah, I don't know if I'll ever have another one again. Between the pain of getting ready for it and the stickering and then the bargaining, I'm like, God,
I want to take the tote, put the tote out there, and not label the stuff, just label the tote. Everything in here is $1. So if somebody brings up something, it's $3. Or they say, I'll give you $2 for this. Sure, just take it.
Yeah.
How are you going to know what tote it came out of?
I don't care. All the totes are going to be $1.
Oh, you heard it here.
All the totes are going to be $1.
Everything's $1. Or if you're Dollar Tree, it's $1.25 now.
Well, everything that the Goffs have is going to be $1.
There you go.
If the O'Briens or the Foeys or the Parishes want to be bougie, that's on them. But the Goffs everything's $1.
Are you working this garage sale?
I'm actually going to now.
Are you?
Yeah. At first I wasn't sure. Yes, I'm definitely going to work it now. Yeah.
See, that's one of my favorite parts about it is seeing like the different people come through because people watching at a garage sale is incredible.
Because we're going to do Bloody Marys and donuts Saturday
Bingo.
morning.
That's how you do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And if you buy a certain amount, your Bloody Mary's free. I probably can't sell the Bloody Mary, can I?
You got to have a liquor license, I believe.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
So we'll be doing that.
Free will donation.
Free will donation.
Along with your everything's $1.
There you go. And here's your tomato juice.
Yeah.
It may or may may not have something in it.
Yeah, and it's definitely not in your neighborhood, right? So they don't have to come look for you.
It's going to be up in the high end, the Cheswick area.
Yeah.
The high end.
There you go.
There
you go.
So the neighborhood.
Speaking of Ashley's embarrassing stories, last week she shared with us that she has a bag of clothes in her garage.
I was right about lice.
What?
Okay, so lice.
You said they're dead?
They have to have a host, or they can only live like a certain amount of time, and it's way less than a week. It's like 1 or 2 days, and you have to have a blood host.
So
they can live off your DNA that's in the clothing. You can't live
no,
off
they have to have like a live host.
Okay.
Yeah. So everybody argue with me on that. I was right.
I was gonna say.
And those clothes are still.
Chalk that up.
And those clothes are still staying in the bag
it's not
in your
clothes,
garage.
It's blankets and stuff.
Okay,
remember?
But it's still in your
garage.
garage.
In there.
It's still there.
I'm waiting for the day that I wake up and Luke has just gotten rid of it, but he's not.
Would you know? We had this
it would take me a while to recognize it, but then I'd be like, oh man, there was some good stuff in there after 2 years, 3 years.
Like I said, gaslight the hell out.
Yeah.
Honey, that's been gone forever. Come on, we got rid of that years ago.
I brought that up because our guest today, the reason why I found him years ago on the internet, he said, old game warden trick to get rid of those buffalo gnats. The pecker
gnats, no-see-ums, buffaloes, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
They're gnarly this year.
It is so bad. But his recommendation was Dettol in a different kind of mixture. But I was reading up on Dettol because I'm like, is this, before I go tell the world. It's also a treatment used for lice.
Really?
So, yeah.
Huh.
Dettol.
Well, hopefully our lice
Dettol
days
is your
are
friend.
over,
I have some for you. Because it comes in a giant bottle, and I don't think you'll ever use it.
So now, is this the stuff that you use a portion of this, and then you mix it with other stuff, and it kind of smells like a household cleaner? It smells really good, really.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So his version, I believe, was with that and water. He'll probably correct me. I found a different version that I tweaked, and I used the Dettol, 1 part Dettol, 1 part baby oil, and 1 part rubbing alcohol, and I'm calling it sander spray.
Aha!
And I made everyone some.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's awesome. Well, I'll take it for sure.
Did you study the effect of tequila on pecker gnats? Do you know how that?
Well, it obviously doesn't work, Bob, because
Okay.
they're attacking me like crazy.
Yeah, I think they like tequila as much as we do.
I believe they would be something that would attract them, I would think.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's the problem.
I don't know what it is, but they are attracted to almost everything around our house. And when you get bitten by one of those things, like they swell up so big, and the bite lasts for, I don't know, weeks.
It makes me not want to go outside. Like
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it's age, I don't know, but I lived outside.
Yeah.
I mean, everything we did was outside.
Yeah, I was
and
never inside.
I got eaten alive by mosquitoes, but I don't really remember buffalo gnats when I was young like that.
We also weren't drinking then, so, well, I mean, I was kind of.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
I was not. I was playing on the playground at Johnson
there you go.
Park. I just recently saw Chris Pratt had a status on his Facebook that more kids were playing in the mound of dirt that they used, to take apart than the brand new playground
Yeah.
on Johnson Park.
That tracks. I mean, you remember when your kids, like, did Mayla, when she got a gift, she'd rather play with the stupid box or the tissue paper or the wrapping paper than the actual gift?
But I said,
Pop the buttons on the shrink wrap?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Bubble wrap.
To go into the park, though, like I said, I think there's just not enough of that. Kids don't get dirty anymore. Kids are just in this bubble now with so many helicopter parents. Let your kid go out and play in the dirt. Let them play in the mud. We have a creek behind our house that when it fills up, it rains. Our kids would go sliding down the hill and hit the creek, and there's probably some sewer in there too. But that's fine. Top of them up.
Some snakes, some jagged rocks.
That's right.
Hell yeah,
Squirrels.
We lived by South Park, and we were always in the creek.
Yeah.
And probably not the cleanest thing, but whatever. We didn't give a shit. And
though, I think things were cleaner then, though.
Really?
Like, I think the
I just don't think I paid attention to it.
problem.
I'm sure none of the industries on Gardner Expressway, I'm sure, dumped anything into any of that. I'm sure.
Yeah.
The South Park Creek was much clearer.
Okay.
I know I'm not just.
No, you're probably right. I mean,
I think they
Soybean juice, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought there was recently a news story, like not recently, but within like the last 5 years or so, something about it being polluted or contaminated or something like that. I don't know.
I think you were just telling me about that the other day. I was going to say, I think you're right, but I think you were telling me, so.
So I don't know if playing in the creek is.
Yes, what I was going to say.
I also want to know if our guest thinks, what about playing in the river? I mean, obviously not playing in the river.
I'm real interested in this because Annie, our intern that we're hoping to keep forever, right? She was asking about, watering holes to go to. She likes to just swim and like
swimming
places.
watering holes, not bar watering
Oh, no,
holes.
no, swimming holes.
Although she's hit plenty of those.
Swimming
No,
holes.
she hasn't, but I would have that list for her.
But she was asking about swimming in the river, and I, again, don't know if it's my age because I was like, oh, I don't know if I would anymore. But I lived in the river. I mean, I don't know if it's dirtier. I don't know, but maybe I'm just old and chicken shit now. But way back, in my good old days, you couldn't find me anywhere but in the river. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to hear what he says.
I mean, ponds around Perry and Lick Creek, and then, of course, the Salt River. And when Mark Twain Lake came in, of course, we went down to Lake of the Ozarks a lot. So I only was in the Mississippi a couple of times, but normally it was just all the other lakes and stuff. But kids just need to do more of that. They really do. Just get off the phones and the video games and just go play and learn how to do things like hunt and fish.
Yeah. And plant flowers and plant vegetable gardens. And when you learn how to do that, come to my house because I don't know anything about it.
And then come to my house.
Yeah.
Because my wife tries.
Yeah. And I hear they have Bloody Marys. So Ellen is going to kill you one of these days.
She tries, those plants die.
Well,
That's how it goes.
God.
So, all right, we will be back with our guest right after this.
The Liquor Booth is your home for a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits. The Liquor Booth has 2 locations in Quincy, 3520 Broadway and 1500 North 12th Street. The Liquor Booth, where it's always happy hour.
What have you been missing on Muddy River Gems? You won't believe your eyes. My crew and I have been bringing you stories for more than 20 years on PBS and now Muddy River News. And we're just getting started.
Glenn Sanders, the old game warden. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Your Facebook posts are very enlightening to anybody around here who cares about the outdoors. I don't know if anybody cares about the outdoors as much as you, but you are certainly one of the leading advocates we have for hunting, fishing, being on the river, doing all that stuff. And we just want to come. Brittany's got a lot of stuff she wants to talk to you about. I got a couple of things that we can talk about before we get into Brittany's list. I just want to kind of get a quick update on you on how the Upper Bay project's going.
Bay project's going good. Right now, the dredge is up at Andalusia, Iowa. They've got about another 2 days worth of work there. They'll then be moving downstream to do a small project, opening up the marina at Fort Madison. As soon as they're done with Fort Madison, it comes to Quincy. And I'll give everybody a little advance notice. Mississippi Valley Hunter and Fishermen Association, we're looking to put together a tailgate party down there at the riverfront when the dredge gets here and finally gets started on the project down there.
Nice.
We thought the tailgate party was the most appropriate way to celebrate 35, 40 years worth of work trying to get to this point.
Absolutely.
And we'll be having more come out on that, but I think it'd be awesome to have a bunch of the people that have been involved, people that like the river, to be able to come down, and we're going to get the guys off the dredge and feed them some burgers and brats and
That's
thank them for
awesome.
being here
That
in
sounds
actual
great.
physical presence.
I have a feeling that this will be their favorite stop.
Yeah, I think so too. And I just, again, it's so important to get the Upper Bay done, of course, to get the riverfront and all that stuff done. But mostly, it's the Upper Bay, it's Triangle Lake, it's to get that area up there all cleared out so we can really restore that habitat. And you have talked, again, we always talk about tourism around here, but the two big pillars of tourism we really have are hunting and fishing.
Exactly, and it doesn't cost a lot of money to bring the hunters and fishermen in. You don't have to spend a lot of money. If you've got the product, which we do, the deer hunting, the waterfowl hunting, the fishing here in the area, we don't have to spend money. The hunters will come.
Yeah, I mean it's been proven, and I think that just getting that whole Upper Bay area done, it's just going to be such a boon for this area. And you said it's been 40 years we've been trying to work on this project.
Right, and it was a learning process because for the longest time we fought with the Corps of Engineers here in the Quincy area, and we thought that would be the way to get them to finally start taking care of their land and water out there. Well, we never did get anywhere with the fighting with them. So we basically decided, well, we need to be buddies with them, and a number of us had to learn a whole new language because the bureaucracy speaks in acronyms the whole time. So there was a learning curve for us, and we made a couple of attempts of being buddies with them and trying to work within the system. And each time we learned a little bit more and a little bit more, and we finally got the end project. And right now, everything still sounds good as far as Doge hasn't cut the money or anything like that, like the rumors are going around. That is a very popular, that habitat restoration project, not just here for Quincy, but it's got big bipartisan support up and down the river.
Yeah.
And everything still looks good for us to be able to let that contract on the big project next spring.
So one of the reasons why I asked for you to come on here, one of the most relevant reasons, you had made a suggestion on Facebook. Like you said, tourists, they just come here, right? We don't have to spend a lot of money to bring them here. One of your suggestions was during these tournaments, okay, bear with me too because I don't know very much about the hunting and fishing tournaments, but we have to have licenses, especially for fishing in Illinois, and you're bringing people in here and then they're requiring them to get a license, and you made this suggestion to suspend that. I just thought that was a great suggestion, and how would we go about doing that?
Well, there's a number of ways that it can be taken care of, but for the average hunter or fisherman, the price of the licenses, the base license, is not a determiner whether they want to come here or not.
It's just
It's, for example, if there's a fishing tournament, is there the infrastructure here? And fishermen in tournaments love to have spectators. That's why fishermen like to hold their fish up. They like showing it off. So that was one of the things we used to have. The big bass tournaments used to come to Quincy, had it down at the Civic Center. Unfortunately, it was well attended and everything, and they loved it. But unfortunately, they had a boating accident during one of their tournaments, and that kind of put a little bit of damper from their legal staff on coming back to the area. It had nothing to do with us, but they loved the area because people turned out to watch it. And that's one of the things about, next weekend is Fishing for Freedom. That is why that has been so popular with the boaters that provide the boats for the warriors, is they love coming to Quincy because of all the people that turn out down there at the riverfront to support not just our veterans, but to see the fish that are being weighed in. People, that's what they like.
Real quick, how's the boat count coming along?
Getting there slowly but surely, but we could still use more boaters if there's people out there that haven't signed up yet. And you don't have to be a professional fisherman. All you got to do is be a friend of that warrior that's getting in the boat with you and get out on the water. That's all it takes.
Okay.
So real quick, like back to that, just to clarify, you don't think having to have a license deters non-Illinoisan from coming here?
I don't think that's a big determining factor. What I would like to see done locally here that could really boost us in the tournament circuits is if we could have a different limit on the catfish out here on the river.
Okay.
Because right now, both the commercial fishermen and sport fishermen can take all the big catfish they want. Well, there's a couple things about that. One, if we established a trophy fishing area here where you could only have like one fish over 32 inches, that would be a huge draw for tournaments to come here because nobody else is doing that.
Yeah.
It's a great marketing tool. Plus, from a biological standpoint, those big catfish are so important because you take a 10-pound flathead catfish, she might produce 10,000 eggs. That sounds like a lot, but you take a 70 or 80-pound flathead, which there are out there in that river, and same way with the blue cats, they'll produce 120,000 eggs. So we're producing so many more by having those big catfish. And here's the other kicker about the big cats. They're the only things that eat them Asian carp out there. They love to eat Asian carp. They can eat bigger Asian carp. So we can do two things there. We can have a trophy catfish area here on the river, which we could just get, if we just get the state of Illinois to agree to do it by rules, boom, it happens. The tournaments will come.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like something we need to get our local legislators on to try to get that going and get that moving up the river. So, no pun intended.
Okay, so we did shake hands at the door, Glenn, and you said nice to meet you. You probably don't remember meeting me because you have so many, or you've had so many students. My daughter was one of your students in an archery program. She took that up and you got her hooked there for a while. That was like all she was doing. We had an archery thing in the background. I thank you for doing that and getting her involved. I don't think she would have ever like taken that up had that program not been available.
Well, I appreciate that, and I tell you what, I love teaching the girls how to shoot bows. I love especially teaching the girls how to shoot trap and skeet.
Yeah.
Because they are better students. They listen to what you tell them. Dad hasn't usually taught them any bad habits. So
yeah.
it was the same thing when I was working in law enforcement. It was so much easier to teach the female for recruits than it was to teach the guys, because the guys thought they knew how to shoot. The gals listened to you and did what they told you, and they can usually be better shots.
So, okay.
There's really no need to suck up to her here, Glenn.
No, that's fine. It's great. I love it. But you mentioned law enforcement. So how did you become the game warden?
Well, actually, I made my career choice very early on. I happened to, my mom and dad took me over to the fish hatchery over at Clarence, Missouri, and I went on a tour of that fish hatchery there. And I thought that was just the coolest job in the world, to take those fish and get those eggs out of them and make all these fish at the fish hatchery. So I knew right off the bat, and this was like in 6th or 7th grade,
Oh, wow.
that I wanted to do something in conservation. So as I moved further on, I thought, I'm going to be a forester. And then I found out forestry, when I got started in college, forestry was pretty boring. How many board feet are there in this log, I'm like, nah, that ain't no fun. But I learned that it didn't make any difference whether it was dealing with fisheries or forestry or wildlife. Everything came back to the same thing, that nature pretty well does a pretty good job of taking care of itself. All we got to do is control the people. So I went into the people management business of law enforcement.
So do you have to have, so I read up a little bit on game wardens. Do you have to have law enforcement experience to become a game warden?
No, here in Illinois, the requirement is, they just dropped the requirement back like a lot of law enforcement agencies had to do. They dropped it from the 4-year degree requirement to 2 years. So now, after a 2-year degree, you can apply.
And
it can be in any field.
Okay.
It does not have to be in conservation, or does not have to be in law enforcement. They will accept any major now.
wow. Okay, so rumor, or maybe not, I've always heard conservation officers have the ultimate power, the biggest power, where they can arrest anyone at any time on any grounds. Is that true?
There is a little truth to that for some of the officers. For example, I had to go, once I was on and had enough experience, they sent me to Glencoe, Georgia for training as a deputy federal agent. So that allowed me to enforce federal law as well as state law. And I think that's where that rumor comes from, is some of the conservation officers do get that advanced certification as a federal agent. But as far as enforcing the laws, conservation officer in Illinois can enforce any state law there is.
Okay.
The only thing we couldn't enforce was city ordinances.
Oh.
So
you give somebody a speeding ticket?
oh yeah.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, in fact, there was a lot of times.
Do you have to be on duty? Or you can arrest at any time,
I wasn't doing that stuff for nothing. They better be putting me on the payroll.
I didn't know if like it was your day off and then you saw someone, speeding. Can you?
See ya.
Not my problem.
But if you were working and some guy was pulling a bass boat down Bottom Road and he looked like he was doing about 75, you might get after him if you would have been working.
Yeah, we tried to concentrate on our primary of fish and wildlife enforcement. Sure. But if it's something there that was a public safety threat, like a reckless driver, drunk driver, excessive speed, something like that, we'd go ahead and get the ticket book out for that stuff too.
Tell me your best drunk boating story. Not for you personally, but for someone you might have approached.
Well, there was a lot of them because
you were working back when hogback was hogback.
When hogback was rolling.
When Ashley was out in the river.
When Ashley was on hogback, yeah.
There was a number of them where you had to really have a very serious conversation with the drunk driver to get them and their passenger to put their clothes back on long enough to process the arrest.
Ashley.
What's the weirdest excuse someone gave you for breaking a rule? What is the weirdest excuse someone has given you for poaching?
Oh, on the poaching side, they usually didn't get too creative. It was usually, well, I didn't know that was against the law. Well, everybody kind of knows you don't shoot a bald eagle, that type of stuff.
Oh, did that really happen?
Yeah, that really happened.
Oh, yikes.
I thought that was a hawk up there in that tree that I shot.
Oh, God.
No, that was a
Did
bald
you
eagle.
ever get I'm trying to feed my family here if somebody shot something?
No, that one didn't come up very often. You would hear that a lot of times from the general public, though. That I can excuse them poaching if all they're doing is feeding their family type of thing. Well, in all the years, I only had one time where I thought that was going to actually be the truth, because we had an undercover investigation going on, and I was going in to arrest this guy, and when I pulled up there, I thought, oh man, this place is pretty nasty. These people are living poor. And I thought, maybe I finally found that one that's actually poaching to feed the family. No, he didn't pass inspection on that one either, because he was poaching, selling the deer to get the money for drugs. None of it was going to the kids.
So you mentioned nature. Like, I love your post because you always say nature basically takes care of itself. And like what you said we're just policing the humans. But what invasive species besides pecker gnats keeps you up at night?
I think right now, and it's going to seem pretty innocuous, is we've had a lot of plants introduced here to Illinois, like autumn olive and bush honeysuckle, that are changing the whole ecosystem out there.
Yeah.
Because they're crowding out everything in our forests.
What would that be? Okay, so I have some stuff in my foresty backyard. We call it Japanese hops. It's where like it really vines around things. It's so sticky you can't even touch it with your bare hands because it'll leave like rashes on you. Is that something new to the area?
That's also new to the area. And again, those both go back to we didn't manage people properly. We allowed people to bring in and sell plants that never should have been brought into this country. Those are all invasives. And the bush honeysuckle in particular, it gets so dense, it stays green later than any other plant does, keeps its leaves a long time, greens up faster than every other plant, so it can outcompete every other plant out there in our forests. So what we're seeing in all of our forested areas where this is a problem now is, number one, we're not seeing any regeneration of the trees.
Yeah, they're choking out the trees.
They choke out everything. And they're choking out all the food sources for the wildlife. And it's just so prevalent out there now. I don't know any way that we're going to get it under control unless we get lucky, like we did with another plant that was brought in. The multiflora rose was actually promoted by the government as being this great plant to put out there to protect wildlife and bunnies and all that good stuff. Well, the government screwed that one up, but they got bailed out because after it was out there for about 20 years, there was a fungus came through. And finally there was a control on it, and that fungus pretty well killed off the big patches of it, thank goodness. But we haven't seen nature come in and control these other ones yet.
I'm sure you rarely came across the wild cannabis that was growing out there that people would say, oh, I had no idea that was out there. And there would be a little bit of that.
I hated working Operation Cash Crop. even though we got paid overtime to go out there and look for the cannabis cultivation. First off, it's lousy working conditions because you start looking for the cannabis fields. The state police would fly usually and try to find them by air. Well, they were real good at finding them from the air, but the state police weren't quite so good at navigating through an island to get to where this field is.
The conservation's job,
That was our job. So, and they also had a tendency. You had to be real careful going into the cash crops fields because if you left any sign, a lot of these growers were pretty good at noticing anything different. So, to try and herd state police officers into these fields without them leaving sign behind was like having a 4-year-old with you sometimes. Pick up your feet. Don't make so much noise. You're taking a kid on his first hunting trip type thing. But I hated working them. They were fun to a certain degree. It was like the thrill of the hunt, getting in there and finding them and getting them undetected. And then came the decision time on whether or not we were going to stake the fields out and try and apprehend the people, or we just do what I called the body count, where we're going to chop all the plants down and get credit for X number of plants. Well, sitting there and waiting on them, I didn't mind, the mosquitoes, anything. I could handle being out there all night long trying to catch the guys. That was fun. That was the predator in me coming out. But I hated actually having to harvest that crap. Because it was always the middle of August when we give it up. It's going to be 95 degrees. There's not going to be a breath of air moving. You're in the middle of an island with no wind, and you're cutting cannabis plants, piling them up, and burning them. And all that smoke,
Brittany's like, where's this?
Right there with you. Then you go back in.
Contact high, Glenn.
Then you go back in, and the first thing you have to do is write the report
While you're
stoned.
that you've had exposure to it. So if you get the urinalysis test in the next 28 days, you don't come up hot. I hated cash
that
crop.
criminal justice degree of yours might come in handy now if you want to become a conservationist.
Oh, I know. The ultimate of officers,
And burning the cash crop.
Oh yeah, well no, I would never do that. Did that ever hurt your soul, Glenn? I would hurt my soul.
No, I really didn't like that smell at all.
Okay, along the lines of these interesting, funny stories, have you ever caught somebody doing something so dumb that it was almost impressive?
Well, I actually had a rule that if the person, unless it was something really serious that I couldn't look the other way on, if they come up with an excuse that I hadn't heard before, I would automatically switch it over to a warning and tell them, I've never heard that excuse before. That's original. You got creative enough. And there were some, but more times than not, by the time I worked, 10 or 15 years in the job, you'd heard all the excuses. There was no original material left out there. How
long did you work the job?
I worked for the state 28 and a half years, and then I had a couple years with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Awesome. Okay, so you're obviously a hunter or a promoter of hunting. You like hunting. What would be your favorite thing to hunt?
I like to hunt waterfowl a lot because the duck club we've got on weekends, we fill the blind with kids. And the kids are so entertaining. You never know what's going to come out of their mouth next.
The Sandridge Duck Club and Daycare, correct?
The Sandridge Duck Club and Daycare. And at one time we actually had to call it, we had to add beauty parlor to it because we had a young lady, cute little blonde gal, and she had a couple of 14 and 15-year-old boys wrapped around her little finger the whole time she was in there. And she was talking them into braiding her hair and everything for her in the duck blind. So we added beauty parlor to it for a while until she moved on and those two 14-year-olds found girlfriends of their own.
Wow. Is our waterfowl, so we have this picture, I pulled it from your Facebook, with this dog just cheesing. It was hilarious. Are those waterfowl in that photo?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you said that's not your dog, but you were along for the...
That was one of the hunting trips to Canada this last year.
Okay, it was pretty cool looking. So, you're the person that kind of dispels myths or maybe gives us good examples for things. I have a list of different things that have been floating around TikTok, mostly to get rid of those mosquitoes, like what I was talking about. It makes it so I don't want to go outside. I know a lot of people don't want to go outside. So everyone's looking for natural repellents. I don't think people, or at least myself, don't want to use chemicals. I have dogs, I have kids, I care about my own health. So I'm trying to find things that aren't too full of chemicals. And even though this is a chemical, you suggested the Dettol. And that was what brought me, to you. It was a lifesaver. But I did tweak it a little bit. I think you heard my thing.
Yeah.
Is it going to work that way?
Oh, I think it'll work just fine. And
The baby oil kind of makes it so it doesn't smell as hospital-like.
yeah, because it is a hospital antiseptic, and it makes you smell like you're getting ready for surgery.
If since you put baby oil in it, this would be called Sanders spray or Diddy drip, one or the other.
Well, I made you one. I made everyone one.
Thank you. I love it.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Okay, so some of those myths, though, that I want you to dispel. The mosquito traps, they call them the buckets of doom. That's going around on TikTok. It's where you take like a big 5-gallon bucket, fill it with, I think, water and some other things, leaves, and then you put some kind of trap in there. Does that work?
Well,
They put them all around their yards and maybe around your patio. I don't know.
yeah, that type of a mosquito trap, basically you're trying to imitate where the mosquito wants to go to lay its eggs. Stagnant water is what you're creating by putting leaves in that bucket.
Okay.
As far as that being enough of an issue to bring in a significant number of mosquitoes to do you some good, it's probably not going to
Am
accomplish
I
the
like,
job.
am I just creating a breeding ground for them so it's going to get worse?
It could very well get worse.
All right. So thank
But
you,
the thing
TikTok.
is, there are so many places out there where mosquitoes can breed.
Yeah.
You can try to eliminate as many of those stagnant water areas around your property. That actually does help because they're going to be drawn to that. There's so many things about mosquitoes, and there's so many companies out there trying to sell these products that, this is going to zap mosquitoes. Nope. We're going to put up all these purple martin houses and they're going to get the mosquitoes. Well, purple martins are great at eating bugs, but the problem with them is the mosquitoes fly 4 foot off the ground. That's where they spend most of their lifetime. Purple martin's up there at 20 feet. He's not running into a lot of mosquitoes up there. The other thing is, I haven't seen a purple martin flying at night yet, and that's when the mosquitoes are out.
My grandmother in Perry, Missouri, my cousin and I would ride with her from Perry, Missouri to Griggsville, close to Perry, Illinois, and buy the purple martin houses, then go back to Perry, Missouri, and that's not, back then, the highways weren't great. And so we would do that. We did that for a couple of summers, and she must have had a dozen purple martin houses up.
God bless Mr. Wade. I mean, he really believed
did.
that he was totally into purple martins, being able to control mosquitoes. And he made a lot of money off it too.
It was the purple martin capital of the world. That's right.
Yep, exactly. But as far as the actual biology of what's going on out there, the best thing that I know of that's actually been proven to work is dragonflies are the ones that get the most mosquitoes.
Oh, so
They're out there buzzing around right over top of the water where the mosquitoes are.
how do I attract dragonflies to my yard?
Well, actually, there are some companies where you can buy the dragonfly nymphs and hatch your own dragonflies. Now, I don't recommend that simply because unless you're going to put a shock collar on every one of those little dragonflies, how are you going to keep them in your neighborhood?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I can keep them with my rainwater bin. So I want to make a rainwater bin to collect rainwater and put goldfish in there. Now you can't arrest me for that because it's a city ordinance.
He's retired.
Well, I know, but it's a city ordinance, and he can't do city ordinances. And yeah, I'm sitting here saying that I'm doing it, but I haven't done it yet. You have to catch me. That is a city ordinance that you can't collect rainwater. I confirmed that today, which really blows because one more thing for them to control you. But I want to collect the rainwater and have goldfish in it because I heard you don't have to have a filter in that rainwater thing, and it's really, really good for your own vegetable crops.
Well, your goldfish are going to be producing poo, and that's a good fertilizer.
So yeah, don't drink the water. I think that's,
Now, you could just do like the Indians did, though, and cut out the middleman and just plant the goldfish alongside each one of your plants to start with.
Wait, what? For real?
Yeah, the Indians used to use fish for fertilizer on their crops.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just cut out the middleman on this operation, take that goldfish and plant him alongside your
I'll have
plant.
to get them deceased already because I couldn't do that. I can't. I still think the people that do that Minden bar crawl where they swallow the goldfish, it's like, oh, I don't know. You don't know what I'm talking about?
No.
That is so That's the thing around the area. That's one of the stops. What are they called? The sod busters.
Okay. No.
One of the stops is you have to swallow a goldfish to get points on your card or something.
Sounds like
Well,
a
they do same thing down at Triple Oaks when they have their goldfish race.
fraternity.
The losers get eaten.
Like
Oh,
a fraternity
God.
induction or something like that. Hazing.
That sounds awful.
Yeah.
But so my rain barrel will work, right? Then maybe
That would work,
possibly?
yes.
Yeah, even though.
And the thing about having your goldfish in the rain barrel is then if the mosquitoes are laying their eggs in there, as soon as the eggs hatch, the goldfish is going to eat the mosquito larvae.
Awesome.
So so currently, I know one thing that you've talked about a lot is DNR staffing. Where do our local current game wardens hang out these days? Where's the nearest one?
Well, actually, they just assigned, the Hancock officer just transferred to Adams, so they're finally back to having 2 officers in Adams County again.
Okay.
And this next class of recruits they've got going through right now is supposed to backfill that position in Hancock. So they're pretty well staffed right now, especially compared to the way they used to be over in this part of the state.
Well, good.
Now, on the other hand, our parks are not being staffed. Daniel and I just came from down at Fall Creek Park today, and because the 3 guys at Siloam were running Siloam, Buckhorns, Monkey Bottoms. They're responsible for Weinberg King and Fall Creek. They just can't even get there. I mean, there's dead trees. There's been a tree fall on the kiosk down there, brush everywhere. So, talking to the intern, I think I'm going to be talking to the sheriff about giving me the SWAT program for a few days, and we're going to go see if we can get that mess cleaned up.
Daniel is Glenn's intern, for those of you that don't know.
Yes, and he is not Spunky Bottom. Let's just make that perfectly clear right now. Well, also, let's talk about the parks real quick. You spoke to the county board a couple months ago at a meeting I was at because there was this idea to create a new national park around the where the Illinois, Missouri, and Mississippi rivers meet, and you don't think that's such a good idea?
I think that's a terrible idea because, first off, the people that are pushing that are pretty far out on the radical environmentalist ideas.
Sierra Club and such like that?
A national park, you cannot hunt it at all. You can't trap the property. Commercial activities in a national park have to be through a lease with the National Park Service, and they are extremely limited. That will not work on our river ecosystem. First off, the Corps of Engineers is charged with taking care of commerce first on that river system, making sure those barges move those commodities up and down that river. That's job number 1 for a river system like the Mississippi. That is going to all get screwed up by a national park, big time. It's just like what we've got here at Quincy. Sometimes I have to stop and go, okay, people, if you come up with these ideas for the Quincy riverfront, whoever comes up with that idea probably ought to be the one that is responsible for seeing what permits do we need to do what we're talking about doing. Mm-hmm. Because it took a lot of years to get the right permits in place just for this Bay project. Mm-hmm. That is very time consuming. Right now, there's a proposed project here at Riverfront. They only wanted to put 1 piling in the bank of the riverfront, and they've been turned down by the state of Illinois for that 1 single piling.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff down here that they're talking about, which may be great ideas.
What's a piling?
A post.
Okay.
Supporting a deck.
Okay.
To put a dock out there,
Yeah.
because they've been trying to get
Yeah.
those the cruise ships to stop here, or whatever, the river boats or
And
whatever.
I was at one of the meetings where said, well, we're going to have to do something about those barges. Those are ugly out there parked in front of the riverfront. Well, if you were doing your due diligence, you would know that the entire area from the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Bridge to the north, all the way to the lock and dam, is what they refer to as a barge fleeting area, which is where barge operators are required to park their barges. They're not allowed to just tie them up anywhere. And you're not going to make that go away no matter who you think you are on the riverfront.
Who thinks they're
Barges are
ugly?
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cash right there. What are you doing? That's we've got ADM down there, we've got Huber, we've got all these companies down there who rely on river trade. I don't know why. Oh, they're ugly. Well, that's life. Sorry.
I don't think they're ugly. I live down by the riverfront, and we literally stop every time you see a barge go near.
Cool as hell.
It's awesome. I don't know. What do you think about? He said some of those companies, and they are transporting things along the river and along the riverfront. Some of it is like soybean that produces grain dust. Is that a problem for our environment?
Not really, because when they're loading those barges down there at EM, yeah, there's some soybean dust comes off. That hits the water. That is basically food for the base of our food chain out there on the river. Because if the small fish fry are not eating that soybean dust, then the plankton is eating that soybean dust. And the plankton then becomes food for the larger fish.
Okay.
So really, you know, this river is so much cleaner now than it ever was in my lifetime.
Really?
Yes. When I was
Dispelled what we just said.
when I was a kid, I can remember when they still had the phosphates in the detergent. Those stayed in the ecosystem for a long time, and you would see big piles of basically laundry foam coming down the river.
That. I remember that.
They were
as a
the
kid.
size of this building
Yep.
sometimes.
Yep.
And you know, the Clean Water Act was the greatest thing. You know, our country is, we've got some great environmental protection laws out there. The Clean Water Act did its job. The Clean Air Act, generally speaking, does its job. You know, I realize that some of these environmentalists on the other side, you know, they're just trying to raise money with a lot of fear, but we're doing a good job. We're doing a good job with wildlife. We're doing a good job with the environment. And that river right now is a lot cleaner than it ever was before.
So we can swim in it?
You can swim in it.
Awesome.
Tell Annie. She'll jump
I
in
will.
it.
I will. Yes.
Well, and
yes,
here's the
obviously be careful.
other thing. If you go swimming at some pond or lake, even some of the larger lakes, that water is not tested like this river water is.
Oh, yeah.
If there's something amiss in the river out here, because of all the testing that takes place, it's known right away.
Yeah.
Whereas at, for example, and I hate to put the dog on Mark Twain Lake, they generally can tell when it's going to come after a heavy rain that the E. coli is going to go up, but they're not testing continuously as much as they are on the river system here. Everything that comes into that water filter plant down there gets tested continuously.
I think this might be my last question. So I mentioned that I lived near the river area. And last year, my backyard was a home to a family of foxes. And I posted that, and I think you commented on it. We'll show it here because they're so majestic and beautiful, and I do like to see foxes. Should I be worried, considering I have, you know, I do have a little dog, and I keep an eye on him, obviously, when I'm letting out. Are they going to, like, come up and snatch him, like some people say? How do I get rid of the foxes? Do I want to get rid of the foxes?
I wouldn't be the least bit concerned about foxes, especially this time of year.
Okay.
Because that's been a change that we've seen over time with the foxes. They used to be all over in the county.
Oh, really?
Now, if a fox tries to make a living out in the county, he's going to wind up in a coyote turd because the coyote's going to kill him,
Okay.
and it's going to come out the back end of the coyote.
So,
Because coyotes will kill every fox they come across.
oh my gosh.
So
So my fox family might not come back because,
nowadays, what foxes we've got have adapted, and they've learned to move into town where there are fewer coyotes. And especially like the females, they will come into town from the edge of town, try to get someplace away from all the coyotes just to have their young. So they're a little smarter animal than what you realize.
and do they return? I read somewhere like that they return to the same place to have their cubs again.
If she is successful there this year, she's probably going to return next year. And you really don't have to worry about the foxes running off with small dogs. They're not a problem like the coyotes are. Coyotes, you got a problem. They're going to snatch your, well, I just posted one up today of a pretty good sized lab surrounded by 5 coyotes. And those types of outcomes with the coyotes are a whole lot different. Foxes, they're pretty easy to live alongside of.
Did the lab make it?
They didn't show that the ending on the
Okay,
video.
good. I don't want to know.
You really want to know. So, I got one more thing. Can we buy ammo now?
Oh, I hope so. It should be after 4 o'clock, and hopefully they've got their computers updated.
What? That just blew my mind when I saw that.
What?
I'll let the expert explain.
Well, we got a notice day before yesterday that the state police who are in charge of firearms and firearm ammunition here in the state of Illinois were going to have their computers down for 26 hours. And that you wouldn't be able to purchase any ammunition or firearms for a 26-hour period in the state of Illinois. Well, first off, that to me, because I like to pride myself as an advocate for common sense, and that is just not common sense. Because when we had something stupid like that happen in DNR, we would send out a memo to all the officers. This is going to happen. Do not take any enforcement action. We'd send out a press release to the public. We got this boo-boo we got to fix. Do not worry about getting your hunting license for that day or whatever type of thing. And the state police, their director, could have done the same exact thing. Instead of just saying, sorry, you're not going to be able to purchase firearms or ammunition for 26 hours. Yeah, that doesn't seem like a big deal. But does that mean that anytime you want to take your computers down, we got a constitutional right there?
Yeah.
It doesn't say in the Constitution in the Second Amendment that except when the computer goes down. I don't think that,
No.
that was, and they would, I think our founding fathers would have had a fit over
Yeah.
that concept.
I mean, I guess you just go across the river and buy it, right?
That all depends upon the dealer, because there's a lot of the places across the river. First off, they won't sell you a firearm if you're from Illinois. They don't like the hassle.
Yeah.
If you were just buying ammunition, that could depend upon the vendor over there. I don't think I would want to try to go into one of the chain stores over there and try to do it.
Let's go to Rutledge.
Go to Rutledge.
You can buy anything at Rutledge.
Pick me up a goat on the way too.
Obviously, you are a advocate for gun rights. You made a post, and I thought this post was also really interesting. The difference between an AR-15 and a shotgun. If you could explain that, I think that would blow your mind.
Well, the big boogeyman as far as the anti-gunners is the AR-15 platform, which is nothing more than a semi-automatic rifle. It's not my favorite rifle by a long shot. First off, it doesn't have the distance of a lot of the other rifles that I own. Even our military's figured out that round, that 2.23 round, is not that effective a round as other ones. So they're moving away from that ammunition. So that kind of blows the whole military grade weapon out of the water. But it's just that big, scary black plastic rifle that they all seem to focus on. Well, the thing is, the high-capacity magazines that they don't like for the AR-15 is 15 rounds. Well, I can take my old 12-gauge shotgun, and I can take that 12-gauge shotgun even in a single shot. It'll only fire one round. But if I put a 3-inch number 4 buckshot in there, that has more pellets than that entire magazine, that AR-15, in one shot. And they are exactly the same size holes.
And they spread out when it's shot?
Well, they've got more spread the further out they go, but and I don't want to get into a lot of the total specifics of the ballistics there because the wrong person might be listening. But trust me,
Yeah, we don't want to.
that AR-15 is not the big bad boogeyman that it's made out to be by the politicians.
You also mentioned something about the accuracy behind it, and you always see in the movies when they have their AR-15s, they never end up hitting anybody. It's like, how did you shoot that many shots and not hit somebody? It might actually be accurate, like the movies. Like, I mean, obviously not, but it's the accuracy.
Well, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of politicians that understand the ballistics of firearms, and they're writing the laws. We've got a senator up north of us here, Senator Anderson. He knows guns forward, backwards.
Yeah.
He can tell you, right up front. They say, well, our founding fathers didn't have high-capacity weapons. Well, that is only because they couldn't convince the Continental Congress to buy them, because there were firearms available during the Revolutionary War that had 16 rounds.
Oh, wow.
But they cost so much money to build because the guns were all handmade. So the Continental Congress couldn't afford them, so they got the cheap muskets to shoot at the British. But the problem is they don't understand what they're trying to regulate.
Yeah.
If they did, they're bark, like the hunters say, the dog's barking up the wrong tree most of the time.
They would do themselves a service to check out your Facebook and all your wise words of wisdom.
Well, that depends upon how many cups of coffee I've had in the morning. Because that really drives my posts.
Really?
How many cups?
Or these at night, maybe, or no?
I try not to do any postings after those. You'll see most of my
man.
postings are early morning
Good idea.
stuff.
Smart
That's a
man.
good idea. Glenn Sanders, thank you for your time. Always appreciate it.
Always fun.
All right, we'll see
Thank
you
you
next
so
week.
much.